Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to math. Today we're going to go over the distance formula. Okay, there's a specific equation you need to use to solve for a distance between two objects, two dots, or two items. Okay, so the objective for today is know how to use and plug in the distance formula. Okay, so make sure you watch the video carefully. Okay, to plug in x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay? All right, let's get started on today's concept. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The concept we'll be covering today is called distance formula. It is a very specific formula for finding distance. I'm going to give you the formula in a few seconds here. All right, but first, remember, my email address is up here. If you still don't have my email address, make sure you write it down, all right? So, back to our distance formula. The distance formula is used to find the measurement from one place to another to see how far are they apart. All right, so let's start off by giving you the formula you're going to use today. I know by looking at the board, you might see an equation that is very complicated. Don't worry, don't stress out about it. We're going to work on it together, okay? So I'm going to read out the formula to you. If you need more time to write down the formula on your notes, make sure you pause the video and then resume it once you're done writing it down, all right? So the formula is d, which is distance, equals radical, parentheses, x2 minus x1, close the parentheses, square, plus another set of parentheses, y2 minus y1, close parentheses, square. All right. So I know it looks, like I said, complicated. I know you've never probably seen this before. It's okay. We're gonna work on it together. So let's start off. Let's start on the first example, right? All right. So we have two friends that they want to see each other. All right. They don't know how far away from each other are they. So they're trying to find the distance between their houses. So one's house is located at 6, 7. Put the right color here. 6, 7. All right, that's where his house is located. Jose's house is located on 6, 2. All right, so now probably should rewrite this number 6, 2. All right, so we're trying to find the distance between Jose and Juan. So we're going to use this formula, the distance formula, to find the distance between their houses. So let's get started. All right, guys, so we have our coordinates for Juan, which was 6, 7, and then our coordinates for Jose, which was 6, 2. We also have our distance formula up here. All right, try to use different colors so we can work on it together. Makes it a lot easier to see. All right, so the first thing is a set of coordinates is a set of two numbers. All right, where a point is located on a graph. So here's our first coordinates, the first points. The first one is always your x. The second one's your y. The same as the alphabet, x before y. All right, so let's label it. We have x, we have y. This is the same thing over here on the other one. The first one is, what's the first one labeled as? Good, an x, right? So we have x and y. Now, whenever you have more than one coordinate, you have to label it one as 1, one as 2. It really doesn't matter which one's which, but for the purpose of this one, we're going to pretend the first one is the number 1. This is our second one, okay? So we're going to label, let x1, y1. Then we're going to label this one x2, y2. Now that we have it labeled, we can actually start plugging it in. All right, so Let's start off by doing the radical. So D equals the radical. I always like to put the parentheses in there just for the purpose of already in there. Keep the squares. All right, so notice we're going to keep the negatives as well for now. So we have a minus and a minus. All we did was bring out everything except for the variables. Okay, so now we can actually plug in variables. So notice that x1, x2, where is x2 located? Is it on this set, the first set, or the second set? It's on the second set, right? x2, there it is. So x2 is 6, all right? So we have 6 minus our x1, all right? So our x1 in this case is gonna be blue, which if you look over here, you have x1 right here, right? So it's 6 minus 6. Now we do the same thing for the y. So remember, we were looking for y2, which in this case is in our second set, right? Which is the 2. So we have 2 minus y1, which in this case is 7. All right. So we'll do it in the color it's supposed to be, which is 7. Now that we have that, we can actually start combining numbers together. Okay? So, again, we write our D equals, don't forget the radical, the little house. So we can actually start with the first one, which in this case is 6 minus 6. So we have 6, right? We have 6. And then we subtract those 6, we have 0. So we have 0 squared, and then we have a plus, because remember, the plus in the middle stays the same, plus, and then we have 2 minus 7. So 2 minus 7, notice that you don't have enough, so it has to be negative. So it's negative 5 squared. Don't forget the square from the outside, okay? Remember, these are probably, if you wanna do this, if you want them still inside of parentheses still, that's fine. All right. So now that we're done with that step, we can actually move on to the next step, which is D equals, again, we still have the little house, okay, the little radical on top. Notice that 0 square is like saying 0 times 0, okay? It's the same number 2 times, okay? So 0 times 0 is 0, right? So there's nothing there. So now we have 0 plus, we have negative 5 times negative 5. Remember, when you multiply two negatives, the rule is always positive when you multiply two negatives, okay? So negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. So 0 plus 25, it's still the radical, remember, little house, of 25. So D equals, can 25 be broken down? This radical means that there's two numbers that gives you, when you multiply the number in the inside, that number has to be the same number. If you look at square roots, the best number for this one is 5, all right? Because 5 times 5 gives you 25. So the distance equals 5. So radical of 25 It's like saying 5. And that is how you solve for distance. So here's a question for the attendance. What is the answer that we got on this equation? Remember, probably up here. So don't forget to submit your answer to my email address, and I'll be hearing from you soon.